adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. And there's a link provided for those that would like to attend publicly. So first up here is, excuse me, approval of minutes of 10/28/21.
So I uploaded them both to the Dropbox if everyone had a chance. Otherwise, I can share them on the screen if that makes it easier for anyone.
Has everybody had a chance to review? Anybody have any edits? I'm seeing head shakes. Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Just a quick, we're doing 10/28, right?
Yes.
Okay. One minor thing, it's on a couple of items, it just says this item was passed over, right? There's usually a reason why we don't. I'm okay with this one. I mean, but in the future, it's probably there's a reason why we usually skip the item, just for historical purposes. That it be noted. It looks like if you read this, it just said we just skipped it. I don't think we have to do that. Yeah.
So I think there are two that I see is for the COC request for 139 Deerfoot. So I could do due to final stabilization being done in the spring, and 84 Main Street I will add because no information was submitted.
Yeah, that means we had a reason for skipping it. It's a minor thing, but I just think it doesn't look like we skipped stuff.
That's a good call out. That's a good call out.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? All right, do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as amended?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay, all those via roll call vote?
Watson? You're on mute.
Muted.
Sorry.
Still muted.
Yes, sorry.
Smith?
Been a long day.
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Lidis?
Yes.
Pasamato?
Yes. Okay, next up is the approval of the minutes of 11/18/21. I was not at that meeting, so I'm not going to have any commentary.
I have just a little minor thing.
Again?
On line 254, if my note is right here, it says, I think it says contractor. I don't have it. There's a wants. I think it just should say wants. It just should say want. Should the contractor want? And it said the should contractor wants. Minor thing. After all that.
Any other comments, edits? No, okay. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of 11/18/21 as amended?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor via roll call vote?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Lidis?
Yes.
Pasamato?
Abstain. Okay, next, let me see. We have a stormwater management permit, 75 School Street, map 75, lot 1. In accordance with Wetlands Protection Act, in accordance with the provision of the Southfield Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, Southfield Zoning Code, Chapter 174, section 13.5. The Southfield Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, December 9 at 7 p.m. by a virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Accessible Housing for Children, Elders, and Disabled LLC for the approval of a stormwater management permit for the construction of a new dwelling at 75 School Street, map 75, lot 11. This hearing has been requested to be continued, but we needed to open it.
Yes, and the reasoning for continuance, just so everyone knows, is the abutter notices didn't go out in time, so we need to wait till the next meeting.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to continue this hearing to the meeting on January 6th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor by roll call vote?
Watson? Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Dyer?
Yes,
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Hassamano?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the next hearing is scheduled for 7:15. We've got 8 minutes. So let's go down to new and or continued business. The first one, request for administrative amendment, 22 Lovers Lane, DEP number 290-1033.
Yes, so as Hamid loads in, a quick background on this is he needed to go to the planning board for a scenic tree removal, and based on their discussion, they moved part of the location of the driveway. And then also when me and Hamid were looking at the plan, realized that in the back, and I will share it really quickly, there is proposed riprap, which the commission hadn't previously looked at. So they're still rebuilding this retaining wall in the back right here that is existing but is being replaced. So the riprap would be armoring the slope on the area away from the resource area.
And what was previously proposed there?
It was just grass.
Just a slope?
Yep. Pull up the approved one before.
This replacement in place of that?
Mhm. Slowly loading.
so Melissa, did I understand you right, that they're actually still working on it and it isn't actually finished? Is that?
The lot had been previously cleared, so no excavation work has started yet. Did this new plan show up?
Yes.
Okay, so this is what it just looked like before. So it was just graded to the wall. So this is kind of just further stabilizing that slope in the back.
Melissa, did an engineer suggest the riprap? Is that why, for stabilization?
I think Hamid's on here, maybe.
Yep, I'm on. I can speak to that. Yeah, so the reason was on this original plan that you see on the screen right now, the basement was 14 feet in height. And if you notice, top of concrete says 324 and basement floor says 310. So we told the engineer, hey, this was from the previously approved plan. We gave them a new building box, which is the darker black line versus the shaded gray area. And we said, hey, we'd like it if it was only a 12-foot basement instead. And therefore, you've noticed in the new plan that Melissa has on the screen, the top of concrete is 324 still, but the basement floor is now 312. Well, in doing so, we have 2 more feet of slope. So that's why you see 310 instead of 308 and 306 only. So we said, that may be too much slope over there towards the back to make a usable yard. So riprap will help stabilize that.
Thank you.
Yep. And yeah, so it was done by an engineer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the
Anybody else have
driveway.
any? Go ahead.
I was going to add also for the driveway, it's because we had to go through scenic road and tree removal application. And as you can see in the plan, there are 3 trees that would fell, the 10-inch, the 9-inch, and the 11-inch, where the driveway on the previous plan was. And that planning board asked that we basically dance around them. So in this plan, that's why you see the driveway the way it is. But we accommodated for that little sliver of additional pavement in the buffer zone with the trench that's already on the previous plan as well.
Oh, okay. Any other board members have any other questions? No. Okay. So this is an administrative amendment. Do we need a motion here and a vote, Melissa?
Yes.
All right, so
Just a
do I hear?
motion. Just a motion to approve and have this the plan of record.
So moved, as noted.
Second?
Second,
All those in favor by roll call vote?
Watson,
yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Geyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Osmano.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we
you
have
very
3
much.
minutes. So we have another request for administrative amendment of 10 Pearl Street, EP 290-1078, fill and level.
Yes, hold on one second. We have Chris Hansen here, who is the contractor, and I will bring up the plan. It should be loading in. No, it's kind of hard to see. Chris, you there?
Yep, how you doing?
Do you maybe want to go through an overview of what you're proposing, and I'll have the plan up here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I got the client here. We're putting the proposed deck on. I had to do a bunch of grading and drainage work on the side here as a septic system was graded towards the house. It's a mounded leach field. So what we're trying to do here is towards this back here, it's a real low level. And the homeowner in this area here where I kind of highlighted, I know it's just a rough sketch, but she's having some ponding issues back here. It's real low. It's muddy. It's unusable. She has a walkway coming around where this proposed garage is. It's all eroding. And she's just wanted to see if basically there's just some stumps and leaf matter that I showed Melissa last week. She just kind of wants to clear it out, bring in some clean fill, and get this kind of area seeded and be able to use this area in here on the inside of the stone wall area.
Does a 20-foot buffer follow that stone wall and dotted line?
So the 20-foot buffer, I believe, right, is
So the-
right.
The stone wall is at the property line,
Okay,
very faint here. And then the 20-foot is pretty much, it's this dash line that does follow the past erosion control line. And some of the area is also, I think, Chris, and correct me if I'm wrong, but more along closer to the stone wall as well, kind of more in this area. That's kind of the natural low spot.
So what she has is right in this area right here. She's getting a good amount of ponding. Well, when it rains hard, and it's on the inside of the stone wall, and she has a walkway that comes here. It's all eroding. She'd just like to get this kind of filled and level so she can use it as usable space, not going inside the wetlands, but just inside the stone wall here. But it is within the buffer zone. But our plan is to, seed it, hydro seed it and everything when it's done. She's just looking to see if she can get more yard space out back here.
so the yellow is the area you're calling the work area.
Yep.
But if you look at the top left of the diagram over where it says map, you're looking to fill that in a little bit. Is that what you're asking?
Well, honestly, the fill's not going to be that. I mean, there's like a low spot in here. We're really not along the stone walls. Okay, it's actually a little bit higher. It's almost like there's a swale that goes in through here where this erosion barrier is. It just gets lower. So what happens is, the water's just pitching away from the house and pitching from the stone wall down into this area right here, and it's staying super wet right where this erosion barrier is showing. She kind of wants to get that graded so it's headed towards the stone wall, instead of sitting on the middle of her property. She doesn't have much room here anyways, so that's why she's looking for some sort of a yard. I mean, Melissa's seen it. She just has a big raised mound here for a leach field. She really doesn't have much of a yard, so we're seeing what we can do.
Melissa, you've been out there?
Yes, I've been out for mostly for the inspections when the septic was being done.
Have you seen the area that he's talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a lower area. I would agree that, because of the current regulations for the septic, this area is definitely higher. And with the amount of rain we had, I know that the previous owner had a lot of trouble trying to stabilize it. That's why the silt fence was left. So, they did, I think, as best as they could, given the site constraints. If there's a lot of leaves, I think there's some old like cement blocks and kind of stuff. If you guys will remember, when the previous owner was clearing it up, there was a bunch of trash and kind of debris and overgrown, etc. that was all within this area. So I don't think that, I think the previous condition definitely exasperated the site in general, and it's already a very small site.
I wish there was one more elevation line in this, or a couple more. It's tough to tell if the 20-foot buffer area is shown on the map does it go up, does it go up as it goes towards the wetlands, I guess. I can't tell. Up in elevation.
It would go down in elevation from the house to the wetland that's back here.
All the way down?
Yeah, so it does go, I would say it flattens out.
Almost going to be like a shelf.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it doesn't flatten out more until on the other side of the stone wall. So that's why it's kind of all gathering and puddling in here.
So where it gathers in puddles, is it like a depression?
I wouldn't necessarily call it a depression. I think it's just a natural contour that's lower, and now especially lower now that the septic and this side of the yard is raised up much higher. Because if anyone's familiar with Pearl Street, I know it's a little dead end road, but this is right on the corner. So Pearl Street itself is very up high, and so the house is a little bit lower to grade, but almost there. The septic is going to be at grade, and now that the septic is at grade, there's a pretty steep. Might be able to pull up a clear plan drop off essentially behind the septic because of the mounding necessary. So what used to be kind of a more continuous, even slope in the back is now all the water is now going to go kind of naturally into this lower spot because it's the only spot that hasn't been disturbed.
So if I just get a second here. So what we did is I had to raise the grade by the house because it was real low. I think Melissa saw that, right?
No.
By the house. What's that?
What did you raise?
No, I'm saying we had to raise the grade just a little bit, put some wrap stone around here
Oh.
because we were getting this water to come down this way because you can't have it going up against the house. It's now running down this way past where the deck's going to be, and it's going to make it even worse because now all the water is going to sit in here even more. So seeing what we have for options here.
Okay. I'm going to open up to the other commission members for their thoughts. Anybody have thoughts?
And my only thought, Mike, is this is a small lot, and there's not a lot of room to do much. It's packed in, so there's not a lot of options that look like.
I'm not sure where you're headed with that, Carl.
I'm not either. That's just an observation that it's there's not a lot of flexibility on what can be done. What can be done? I mean, other than telling them that they have to live with the puddling. I mean,
Well, I was just looking for, other thoughts before I offer my, single opinion.
One last thing she wanted me to ask too, I just remembered, is along her property line, she was looking to put a fence in. So also she wants to see what she can do about that, where she needs to be with the fence.
Can I ask a question? That would,
Well-
I interpret that would go right through the wetlands, right? If it's on the property line?
Well, the fence is an easy answer. It'd have to go on the 20-foot buffer line.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem. I'll
That's
let
where
her
that
know
would have to go.
Yeah, that's no problem.
I'm just grappling with the fact that, the septic system work on this lot and the work that you're doing now has, in my opinion, what I've heard is it's caused a puddling problem in that corner that is also in and out of the 20-foot buffer zone. And it seems that it would be prudent and correct to try to repair that so that the 20-foot buffer acted as a true 20-foot buffer and not a bowl of chicken broth, if you will, sitting there. That be kind of graded so that the water makes its way to the wetlands as we want it to, and it should. That's just my opinion of one of the board members.
I agree with you, Mark. As long as they're staying outside of the 20 foot and they're grading it appropriately, I don't have an issue with it.
Well, did I hear that? I think they want to actually do some grading inside the 20-foot, right? Is that correct?
There's going to be a little bit real. I mean, it's tough to say exactly. We didn't really demarcate, but it's right in here where this roof drain system's supposed to be. It's right in here. I mean, I don't really have it scaled, but it's right in this area where the water's sitting because all the grades are meeting right here. It's not carrying out to the wetlands. It's just sitting right in here. And she's, as I showed Melissa, there's a walkway here and it's all eroding. I mean, her driveway pitches down. I mean, everything's just running down in here and it's causing a lot of erosion and a lot of problems down in here. So I think it should be picked up and graded off into the wetlands.
Yeah, and I would say that once it's, picked up, graded off, and reestablished, that, it's then continues to be the 20-foot buffer. It's, and if they want to put a fence in, it can go no closer to the back property line than that 20-foot buffer,
Yep, no problem.
which, and trying to have a little bit more of a yard back there, that kind of cuts that right off.
Are they committed to putting the fence in? Because that would be that would show where the 20-foot buffer is, and because we usually when we have to issue a waiver, I guess, to do work on a 20-foot buffer, that would be the justification for doing that we would have a demarcation line.
Well, in order for him to do this grading in that 20-foot buffer, a waiver has to be requested and granted.
Yeah. We usually look for some mitigating or some positive reason for doing this.
Well,
To make
the
She
positive
doesn't want
reason
a puddle
is
in her backyard.
that the work that's been done to get the septic in and so forth now has created a small minor little pond back there, right? A water catch that's causing damage in other areas of the dwelling.
Okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
That's correct.
So Melissa, do we have a request for a waiver request for the 20-foot work in a buffer zone?
We don't have a formal application. No, we don't have the form filled out. Right. Something that we can definitely work on if it is something that the commission is interested, just getting the paperwork in.
Is it Chris?
Yeah.
So is that something that you're going to formally request from the commission?
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm going to see
Okay.
what the homeowner wants to do and then we'll go from there,
Okay.
I'll mention it to her that we're going to need that waiver to work inside that area and then see how far she wants to take it. And then her fence needs to stay inside the 20-foot buffer zone and go from there.
So besides the waiver, is the commission generally okay with this work? Is there anything else you wanted to see, as we kind of get into the winter months? I'm assuming, Chris, do you have a timeline for this? I know you wanted to get started on it soon.
Probably going to end up doing it in the spring right now. We just got the deck approved on the back of the house. So we're going to get that finished up. And then we're probably going to end up doing this work. It's been wet, out in the back there. So we're probably going to let it dry up, maybe do something in the spring. But you know, it all depends on how quickly this goes through. Now, do I just get this waiver request form from you? You can email it to me, or?
Yep. Yeah, I'll email you tomorrow with it.
All right, that sounds good.
And it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so I guess we continue this. There's really nothing to vote on at this point. Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going back to our 7:15. Request for determination of applicability, 206 Turnpike Road, map 28, lot 3A. Placement of a sign in accordance with the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the South Row Wetlands Bylaw. The South Row Conservation Commission will conduct a public hearing on Thursday, December 9, 2021 at 7:15 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting. The commission will consider a request for determination for a project located at 206 Turnpike Road, map 28, lot 3A, for the applicant Petroleum Processing Solutions, LLC. The project description is placement of a sign.
All right. Hopefully that Sandy should be loading in. So this is 206 Turnpike. This is, really off Middle Road. And I'll share again. So essentially, from my understanding, while Sandy's loading in, is public safety has requested some sort of sign in order to better locate the property. So this is essentially where the sign will be going. You can tell that on both sides, if you're familiar with it, there is wetlands on either side of the driveway. So we looked at a couple alternatives, and this was really the best format from viewing wise and just proximity wise that made the best sense in terms of sight line as well for, cars and trucks that are coming in and out of the driveway to not impede with Middle Road. So now Sandy's loaded in. Is there anything you wanted to add?
You're on a roll, Melissa.
All right. So we've talked about this a lot. So Sandy sent over today a couple of options in terms of sign look. I don't know if the commission necessarily cares about the final look, but I think more the disturbance level that it would be. But this is kind of the on the ground view of what it would look like. So this is the driveway. There's wetlands on both sides. You can kind of tell that Route 9 is off to the left here, and then this is Middle Road. So this kind of tucks it away and allows for distance on both sides. And I think we've talked about because it is within the 20-foot, Sandy did request the waiver, and also we're going to scatter a couple plantings, native plantings around the sign as the mitigation offset. And that's about it.
Which of the three signs has minimal impact? That one?
What we're going to try to do is when we apply for the sign permit with the building commissioner, is we're going to try to choose a sign that we can use technoposts to build it on, so that there's minimal, the impact to the wetlands is minimal. I don't see us putting a pad. We're gonna, I picked up some signs that we were tossing around and just, put them on here to kind of show the area and whatnot. But we're gonna try to build, Melissa and I talked about doing the least disturbance to the wetlands as possible. I'm real familiar with, the wetlands property and whatever you folks want us to do for erosion control and plantings. And we need a sign there, especially for safety. After I've talked to the fire department, there's no signage that says 200 and 206 Turnpike Road is down this long driveway. So that's why at the top of all the signs, we're going to put the addresses there as well. Yeah,
So this is a determination of applicability. usually what we need to understand is exactly what the disturbance is going to be to put the sign in, so we know whether or not it could be a negative determination or positive. This sign right there with the slab looks like it would be more of a disturbance than sign slide 2. And then sign slide 3 looks like that would be potentially even more than all 3 of them, or the most. I don't know, but
So that's funny, Mark, because I was thinking that I read it as they were putting them on Teco posts, and I assumed that this was just faux brick, and that would be perfectly fine. It looks good, and it's on Teco posts. It's fast, easy, pre-made. Throw it in, get them up.
so Russ, you're basically saying
It would
Technopost
be on,
is really minimal disturbance.
yes.
Yeah, wicked minimal. It's a small machine that augers them into the ground. It's a self-contained apparatus, and it's a good deal. Look it up online. It's worth a look.
Okay. All right, so these signs we're looking at really are not on Technopost. These are just examples.
They're just examples of, you know, where the sign, where we want to place the sign, and some ideas we had about the sign. But the sign itself, when we do the permit, we are going to try to, we will pick a sign that we can build on Technopost, because it will cause the minimal impact. That was something that I had talked to Melissa about, that will, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll definitely defer
Constructing-
to, you know, any Technopost experts. I'm not, so.
Mark, can I ask a question?
Right ahead.
Why not on the other side of the driveway? Out of the 20 foot?
It would be the same disturbance level as this.
Either side.
Yeah.
Same issue.
Oh,
So
is this in the 20? This is in the 20 foot, isn't it?
Both sides would
it's,
be.
both sides would
Sides
be,
of the driveway are in a 20 foot? Okay,
So-
maybe.
this wetland flag does continue. It just stopped here, you know, because this is an older site plan from when they did the driveway. So you can see these are the wetland flags, and then it comes along here too. So where it would be on this side, it'd have to be far enough back where people could still see turning either way. So it would be the same approximate distance no matter what side it's on. And if this side, it is tucked back a little bit more.
So all that lawn is all the lawn is actually wetland? Is that what that?
Part of it, not all of it, but part
Yeah,
of it.
okay, all right, because just from the photograph, I actually live near there.
Yeah.
It looks like it's lawn, so it might be better over there. Okay, all right, thank you.
We really chose that side of the driveway for the most part because of the ability to see traffic is better having the sign on the left
Okay.
for safety. But it's easier that just the way that it curves kind of towards Route 9. If the sign was in between the driveway and Route 9, it just seems like it would, you wouldn't be able to see traffic as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any comments? Questions? No, well, I'm going to, is the board thinking positive or negative determination here?
It looks like negative with, you know, some straw wattles in place just in case. I've seen helical piles going before. When I saw it, it was just a skid steer loader with an apparatus that drives the auger down in, and you know, you get the tiniest little pile of spoils right around the post, and that's it. It's
I
very
think they even come quite a ways from there. It's a small little tiny machine now. So I would be in agreement with you, Ben, provided they're on Teco posts or helical piles.
Yep.
Can that be in the negative determination that it has to be on piles?
It can be a condition.
We approved the same thing up the street on Middle Road on, it was either a porch or something that was added on. They did the same thing
Yeah.
next to the wetland.
That's right.
Okay, do I hear a motion for a negative determination with the provision that their techno-post or helical installations, whatever the technical terms are that I'm not familiar with. I'll leave that up to the experts.
So moved.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes,
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes.
Yes.
Alsamano.
Yes.
All right. Sandy, you are all set.
You guys
Yeah, thank you.
much. By the way, the previous property at 10 Pearl Street, we built that deck on techno posts.
Okay.
Well, we didn't build the supports with techno posts. They are awesome. So thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you.
Good night.
You as well. Okay,
So,
next up is continued stormwater management permit, 1 Pine Hill Drive, map 95, lot 1, renovation of existing warehouses and construction of a new warehouse. In accordance with the provisions of the Southborough Stormwater Erosion Control Bylaws, Southborough Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, the Southborough Conservation Commission will hold a continued public hearing on Thursday, December 9, 2021 at 7:25 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Harvard College for the approval of a stormwater management permit for the renovation of existing warehouses and construction of a new warehouse that will add approximately 25,000 square feet of storage space at 1 Pine Hill Drive, map 95, lot 1.
So just as a quick reminder, at the last hearing, we had some minor revisions in terms of stockpile locations, and we had Fuss and O'Neill take the last comment letter. And we got Fuss and O'Neill's final sign off today. So I did draft the decision. And if there's anything that the Harvard team wants to go over.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Our team is here tonight to talk about a storage building at 1 Pine Hill Drive. I'm going to hand it over to the architect, Tony Paprocki, to summarize the plans.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for having us back again. Just a very brief summary of what we've got here this evening. As you know, we were here last month. We had a good conversation about the project. The project proposes to renovate and add to an existing storage facility on the Southborough campus of Harvard. Last time we were here, we had a good discussion. We submitted some updated materials afterwards to reflect some comments that you guys had made. Namely, the changes were to make sure that we were documenting stockpile areas, which were requested by the board, as well as looking at our stormwater report and revising the calculations to properly reflect the concerns about the TSS levels. I can go into more detail if people would like more of an overview, but I think at this point, I'll pass it over to Bill Marr from Niche Engineering, who's our civil engineer, to talk just a little bit about the technical parts of the stormwater report. Bill? Bill, I think you're muted still.
Sorry. So thank you, Tony, for both of that introduction and the muting. So we have revised a plan, to indicate the proposed soil piles, during demolition, regrading of the site, and so forth as requested, along with a row of erosion controls around the perimeter of those piles. And I think the other thing that we did was really just updated the stormwater report, based on some comments from Fuss and O'Neill, and which, based on the letter that we received today, appears to address all of the comments that they had in their first letter.
So I think short and simple. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I just don't know if I need to go into detail for that. So
I was just going to say short and simple. I think with that, we'll open it up to any comments or questions that you guys might have.
Mark, you still with us?
Me, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I was not at last meeting, so I was looking for others to jump in.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was a moment of silence.
You looked very still. I got a little nervous.
I missed last meeting when this was presented, so I'm a little out of pocket on this one. So
It does sound like the concerns that we raised have all been addressed, and Fuss O'Neill is now on board completely with the drainage design.
so does anybody have any additional concerns, or we think we have everything that was noted as any concerns wrapped up at this point?
I think we're all set.
Okay, then. With that, I would say that we can go ahead and close the hearing.
Oh, wait, Mark, do you want to ask for public comment first? Sorry.
Sure.
Only because you have to.
Yep. Anybody from the public who wishes to jump in on this public hearing, just raise your hand and Melissa will let you in the meeting.
I'm not seeing any hands.
Okay, no hands, then we'll go back to looking for a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I don't know who was first. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor by roll call vote?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Pasmato?
I'm going to abstain because I was not at last meeting.
All right. Diane, I will most likely send you the decision once it's finalized tomorrow morning because I have it drafted. So you guys are all set.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Thank you.
Yep, you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night. Okay, next up is continued notice of intent and continued stormwater management permit. It's 7:44. It's going to change to 7:45 in a few seconds.
I'll let them load in while we're waiting. I don't think we've ever been ahead of schedule in a while, guys.
My phone is blowing up. It's now 7:45. Okay. Lost my notes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I think I was
Hold on,
out of
Scott.
touch with you as you may have been reading. Has the notice been read?
No,
Just hang on,
so-
Scott. We're not quite
Yeah,
there
hold
yet.
on.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, in accordance with the provisions of the South Road Stormwater and Erosion Control Bylaw, South Road Zoning Code, Chapter 174, Section 13.5, the Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the South Road Wetlands Bylaw, the South Road Conservation Commission will hold 2 continued public hearings on Thursday, December 9, 2021, at 7:45 p.m. via virtual Zoom meeting on the petition of Ken's Foods, Inc. for approval of a stormwater management permit and notice of intent for the construction of a 62,500 square foot addition to the existing warehouse at 325 Turnpike Road, map 26, lot 2 and 6. These hearings will be held concurrently.
All right, thank you. Scott Doty, John Crow Associates for Ken's Foods, and also Bill Pizzoni's with us this evening. I can see. I believe that Jim Bourne may be here and others. We've done a lot of work on this in the last since we met last. New plans have been submitted. Response to some of the issues that were discovered in the as-built. And I believe from a technical standpoint, engineering issues and the list that Melissa was kind enough to summarize everything for all of us. We received that list yesterday. We did respond in full with that earlier this evening, which of course she has not had a chance to review, or I'm sure the commission hasn't. But we believe all the technical issues are addressed, and that we are probably down to policy issues and major issues for the commission to continue their consideration of. If I could just briefly list them, would be the handling of the certificate of compliances for the old projects. One aspect of that in particular that I just wish to address for a few minutes is the outlet control fix and how that fits into the scenarios that we have talked about, the plantings being the primary turnovers to a new water, potential new water. Another item is the waivers, of course, that remain waiver requests. Some of them are to do with, I think, are the volume, and is probably the one we want to talk about in a little bit of detail. The work within and why it's necessary in the 20-foot no disturbance zone, and I would kind of put the other ones in the technical category that we believe we've accomplished, but still important to touch base on them. I'm gonna, if I could, I'm gonna grab, if I may have the permission, I'll grab the screen and talk to.
Excuse me, Scott, can I stop you for 1 second? Mark,
sure.
We just got a lot of information that Melissa summarized something and we were asking for it. I haven't reviewed any of it. I'm personally not looking for any sort of update till this gets reviewed by our agent and by Lucas Environmental. I mean, I don't want to waste anyone's time here, but you're going to have to review it again next meeting, I would think, for all of us.
So I got a whole bunch of information at 6:27 tonight. Is that what we're referring to?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't even had a chance to crack it open.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it either.
I mean, I guess I don't know what we're reviewing at this point because we haven't even looked at that.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. Go ahead, Mr. Pizzoni.
Yeah, I mean, Scott responded to an email he received yesterday. I understand that the commission has not reviewed any of it. A lot of it is ministerial. And if we could go through that list right now with the responses that Scott did in 20 minutes, I think it would take care of a good portion of what we're going to need to look at in detail after your consultants take a look at it. Because if we keep pushing this off, at the next meeting, we're going to have these 19 items and maybe 4 more that we have to go through. And that we're going to usurp all the time at that meeting. So I'd suggest, you know, with all due respect, and I understand that you just received it, if we can go through and tick off a lot of these items, it would be helpful to both the commission and to the applicant in the any further edits they have to do to the plans or any further presentation. That's just my take on it. And, you know, I think we've always worked cooperatively, but, you know, with a 19 or approximately 19 item list received yesterday to respond that quickly, it shows that a good portion of them are ministerial and that they have been addressed.
So besides the last, I think 10 comments, all of them were from previous review comments. I think one of the biggest points was that Lucas environmental comments were never responded to, and we haven't gotten our updated response from Fuss and O'Neill yet. So a lot of what is in the document appears to be either reiteration of, you know, we have gone over it, we've agreed, or it's carrying into the next one and we're waiting on Fuss and O'Neill.
Yeah, I just don't want to sit here and have you go through and read everything you sent that we're not going to be able to provide any action on at all.
It's just not how I process it. And that's just me speaking, but I want to review it. I want to give you my honest opinion, and I won't be able to do that tonight. That's how I feel.
It was my hope to review the major issues, not all the items on that list, because I did understand the commission wanting to go over them and also have their technical engineers, you know, the review by Fuss and O'Neill and Lucas. The Lucas comments, I believe, have been addressed and processed in the field primarily, and I guess it's the documentation of it that's the item that's outstanding.
Well, we do have, our Lucas consultant here. If you wanted to review those and get real-time commentary, I'm open to that. But I mean, the Fussell O'Neill ones, we're not going to be able to address those tonight. We need to engage with them.
Right, I understand that, of course, the last set of plans was delivered on the, I believe, on the 29th, and electronic copies the following day. So that's a period of time in which it's been available. So I guess if I could go through the Lucas, I'd be happy to. I'd like to do that, but also one of those is the big item that I wanted to talk about today.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead and touch on those?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And if you could do something about your audio, Scott. It sounds like you're swimming or something. It's terrible. I don't know what it is, but it.
How is that?
Way better.
You know what? There's a fan underneath my laptop, and I turned it off. I'm sorry. It's a cooling fan. That's the problem. Thank you. And my hair's in place too, I think, right?
Yeah, so, I mean, if anybody ran their nails down the chalkboard anymore, I was going to mute you.
Yeah. Thank you. The items that from Lucas' preliminary review, one was the wetland flag changes. There was some flagging that was in question in a second visit to the site on November 4th. They were changed, and all of those flagging changes have been made and are incorporated into the plans. Likewise,
Chair, if I can respond.
Sure. Thank you, Joe.
Yep. I did look at the most recent plan that I saw was dated November 22nd. I think that was what was provided on the 29th. The flag, as far as the revised flags, the revised locations are shown. However, not all the connections are correct. Some of the flags were to be eliminated, and those were not eliminated. So the line is not correct as we had discussed in the field.
Okay, I was understanding that those had been pulled together in the right place. I'll get back together with Goddard on that and make sure that gets corrected then. The mean annual high water, I think there was a consensus in the field that it actually could have moved back from the original flagging. We've of course left it where it was to leave it in a conservative location for the project. The riverfront configurations in terms of how they are dealt with at culverts has been corrected on the plans. And the next item is the 100-year elevation, stormwater elevation. And the request is that we calculate and locate the 100-year flood elevation to provide for the bordering land subject to flooding line. And we'd like to present the idea. I think we've talked about it at a hearing in the past, that the calculation is done. However, considering the fact that the observable flooding on the site has receded significantly since we have the work we did last few years ago, particularly with the Beaver Dam, that the Conservation Commission would consider us to have us do that 100-year flood study as part of this project, since it would be a major benefit not just to us, but to the town and the neighboring abutters. Primarily for the reason that these do take quite a few months to do, especially along a floodway, a stream like this, and to have it done right, and to then go through the process of a map amendment, which I think would be important for the community as a whole, not just Ken's Foods. The question that would come up immediately on that is that, well, what if it's not what we think? What if it is moved up and we are potentially doing some work that alters it? We present you'll see in the comments when you get a chance to read it, we've discussed it, is that we are quite a distance away from the closest floodplain line that's mapped, the conservative line that's mapped. The in addition to that, elevation wise, generally the elevation on the site is around the 315 elevation throughout the site, especially over where we're doing the project. And our work is not in that area at all. We're in the areas where it's at 316, a foot higher. It is low and flat in that area, but we don't. So we believe that we're far enough away horizontally and far enough away vertically that the likelihood of us having any impact that would be nil. In the event that we were wrong, we could make corrections afterwards, after the study is done in that immediate area, or even on the opposite side of the stream on the other property that's also owned by Ken's Foods. So that's the primary message, that the idea that we'd like to for you to consider. And I'd like to answer any questions if anybody has questions on that topic.
Can I ask a question? If you had to make changes, would that be you do that through an administrative change? Is that what happened?
I think we'd have to make an amendment to the order that would have theoretically been issued. Of course, we would still be well under construction at the time. If you think of timing wise, if it took 3 months to do the study, and we got done sometime in the spring, it would really be at the point when the work is really if an order was issued in the coming weeks or the coming month, that the timing would be right, that we would be able to handle any changes prior to really any site work proper being done on the project. Presuming that, and that as usual, the first things that would happen on this project would be the footing foundation kind of work that's done in the immediate area of the building. And as presented in the information that was submitted a few weeks ago, your consultants will see that the impacts of the methodology that's being done with driven stone piles into existing soil is much less disturbing, and so that work is going to be localized. So we could be doing the flood study that I think could also be tied into the thoughts that we had, that there'd be a sort of a common participation between Ken's Foods and the town in terms of any remedial work we might do that remains at that culvert, at that old cow crossing, that would further perhaps create a better scenario out there for flooding prevention for not just Ken's Foods, but properties on the other side of Route 9 and further west along Route 9 on this brook. So that's that item. I don't know if I answered, if there were any other questions. There is a request, of course, by DEP also for a cumulative impact summary that's been provided, and that needs the time to review by Lucas and Melissa and the commission themselves. We provided 3 certificate of compliance requests related to the prior projects. Included with those requests, this is the package that was submitted a week or so, or 2 weeks ago, that proposes conditions for the commission to consider. We talked last about the fact that perhaps if those got written in the correct way and they were incorporated into a new order, that would then alleviate the administrative concern on then doing certificate of compliances on the projects, getting those conditions as special orders or orders rolled into the new order. So we agree with that. I believe that Mr. Smith sort of had thought about that and had suggested that. We agree I believe the consultants have also have agreed with that. I mean, I think Joe, I don't know if you're clear on this, that I believe that your office also sees that as the way, as a solution. The part of those in those major conditions have to do primarily with the unsuccessful and incomplete plantings, primarily the replication area, the 1150 square foot replication area that was unsuccessful along the north driveway, that just needs to be redone and rebuilt with good soil from the bottom up. We all agree with that. And then there's the completion and the replacement of the material that hasn't survived around the bioretention area. So those are the two major areas. But then the third one came up with the as-built, and that's the outlet controls. And submitted on that was a supplemental stormwater package that we would hope that Fussell and O'Neill would have some responses on soon, that calls for establishing what would be the true existing conditions for the expansion project. Right now, they're in paper and in a virtual because the original outlet control structure was not built correctly. The solution, without going into details, is two new outlets by each of the underground systems. The other issue that brought up by Lucas, which we've discussed in the past, is the presentation on our position that we really have no other practical alternative to expansion of this project. And we have the opinion that that many of the commission members may have indicated that that no further presentation was necessary on that in terms of what the robotics does and why we are where we are. I think it revolves around the issue of, did we create our own hardship? And no, we don't believe we did. We believe it was the only logical way to run this expansion project is to the east. The next item is the 20-foot no disturb zone. And we're requesting a waiver for that, primarily for the ability to plant the enlarged wet wildflower area into some of that area, removing some of the manicured lawn that's there now, and therefore creating a better and enhanced buffer zone. And we're certainly hopeful that the commissioners see that that's a valid and a valuable, better than leaving it the way it is. Would be to change those areas into more productive buffer zones for the adjacent wetlands. Tied into that is some of the issues of how do we protect that? What do we do as steps? And we presented in the information for the commission is that some of these items are really sort of educational. It has to do with getting people smart that are doing the maintenance so that they're properly mowing the lawns, not spilling debris in or going to the edge like they may do now. So we need to get control on that, and we think that that's a management condition or a BMP condition that we proposed an idea for that. There was a question about whether we were proposing under this project to actually do the complete removal of that culvert at the cow crossing. No, what was presented was the intent was that, and I guess it's the way it's worded was confusing, and I apologize for that. But the idea would be that through this project would then be a springboard for us to continue to work together to fix that problem, to bring the flood level down, as we discussed, or as I mentioned earlier. And why it couldn't be a part of this project is because that was going to be a multi-layered a jurisdictional issue in this next step. There's going to be not just the Conservation Commission, but there'll be other entities, obviously, that will need to provide input and approvals of that. Include not to mention and another owner, another landowner, where the problem exists in their backyard. And as a matter of process, that those items will take time to develop. I think I better just to keep the commissioner's interest, I'll just hit the major ones. The wildflower planting area, we presented the area we want to utilize. We agree with Lucas's suggestion that some milkweed be in that mix, and we're waiting for a final input from the Open Space Preservation Commission. They're the ones that are dictating that mix, and we can encourage them to do that. There's a question about whether the water quality coming off the roof would be of suitable quality for not to consider that it needs to be pre-treated. And of course, roofs such as metal roofs and pre-treated wood roofs, mostly used in residential applications, can be a problem, but this will be a typical membrane roof, white, to keep it cool and to keep the rainwater cool, not just the building, but also will then fall into that category of stormwater runoff that we can put into the ground and consider clean. There was press for the as-built survey that's been done and completed. It is our base plan for our existing conditions on the site plans. There were some minor items for the form to be changed. It was changed. And of course, the DEP file number, which we've received. Those are the 19 issues. I skipped over a few of them that were very, very insignificant, I think. Thank you for that. If there's any questions on any of those, I'd be happy to go over them.
So, Scott, you've got a plan update that you need to provide based on the wetland flag changes?
Yes, yeah, all the plans are updated. I guess we may have a glitch, as Joe pointed out, in one of the flag connections. I suspect it doesn't impact how we do the work at all, but they may not be connected correctly. The earthwork calculations are been provided since the decision's been made on how the footing work will be done. And I think the last sort of issue to really, I guess one of the last issues to be that would be of concern and want the commission would want to discuss is the volume issue, the runoff volume issue. And we believe that we've presented the best practical solution we can to reduce that to the maximum extent practicable, the volume on the site, in terms of the porous pavement for the emergency driveway and also the integration of the level spreader. They all show that it does reduce the volume, small amount, but it does. But we've done the most we can with the new construction. And we hope that you take that under consideration and would be kind enough to issue us that waiver also. So those are the elements. Touched on almost everything, pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any commission members have any questions, commentary?
Scott, just real quick on the not the impact, but yeah, the cumulative report on all the previous filings. Is that every filing ever on the property or only the open ones?
We've only been, I believe that practice started on this site because I don't think this site had any filings on it pre-Hatch Act. And I think it was originally built in the 1970s, I think, Sherry. And it was the first filing that we think where this was an active idea of keeping this cumulative was the sound wall. And so the summary we've done includes that, the renovation project, the septic system project, and of course the impacts or area impacts that this project would do. So those 4 projects are on there.
Was this, do you know, a P permit when it was originally built?
I haven't found anything on it that it was definitely pre-Hatch Act, because I think the first order of conditions or first notice of intent I worked on was in 1980, and that's when the late 70s is when really a lot of this activity started in terms of not as complex as now. It is now, of course, but in which the Hatch Act passed and protection of the Wetlands Protection Act, the precursor to what we have now. So I think this was pre-Wetlands Protection Act, this project. I don't think we would build this project the way it was originally, right? I mean, in many ways, we would have encouraged it to be raised up, and but right now we're working within the palette and the canvas that original project has provided us.
And to confirm that, Sherry, I just checked, and the earliest filing I have is from 91. And it says construction of 35-car parking lot, and that was when it was 9X.
Melissa, what number is that one? Just curious.
290-240.
Okay, so that one doesn't seem to be referenced in the. I don't see that.
No, we don't have any information on that. I guess other than now we have a number.
I can look and see if I have anything, Scott, to give you.
Yeah, if you have anything in your file. Which certainly the riverfront protection was in place at the time of 91. I think that would have been addressed. I think that's 1986. I think. So.
Any other comments, questions? You muted, Ben.
Yeah, I do, if I could. So I brought this up before. I still have some concerns about the infiltration. I understand the reasons why you're unable to meet the infiltration target. It is a difficult site. I brought this up before. Not too long ago, we turned down another project right up the road that was also faced with difficulties by being a flat site with high groundwater. So I'm particularly sensitive here that we're consistent. At this point, while I understand exactly where you're coming from, the fact remains that the infiltration does not meet the requirements of our local bylaw. What we do in these cases is we look for mitigation. That when we issue a waiver, we always cite in the vote to issue that waiver. We cite the mitigative efforts that justify our decision. I still don't feel that we've sort of crossed that hurdle. There've been a couple of different suggestions made, but I don't want to spring that on you at the next meeting. I want to just, I'm only one commissioner, but I just want to let you know that's still in the back of my mind.
Some of the I'm sorry, I've got an echo here. I don't know if it's at my end. It may have been someone having to be on mute. Some of the, if I could recollect, some of the items I think that you had mentioned, Ben, was some additional plantings in the enhanced buffer zone plantings. Perhaps am I mistaken, or
specifically a couple of proposals have been made for some ground cover changes, in the front of the property. And we certainly haven't pulled the commission on this, but I can say that in my mind that would present sufficient mitigation. You wouldn't be hitting the infiltration target, but you'd be providing a valuable habitat enhancement in the area that, to my mind, would mitigate the impact.
Yeah. I think particularly perhaps those areas that, especially the areas that are maintained in maybe that 20-foot zone, really are probably some of your targets. And we'll take that back to our client and discuss that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being frank and helpful.
Anyone else?
I just have a quick question, Mark. Scott, do you know how much sediment was removed when they did the BMP maintenance? And I bring it up only because my only experience with siphon pipes, even though it's coming from the roof runoff, is that they can get clogged so easily. And if the cleaning is only every 5 years, that's something that at least piqued my interest.
Oh, you're talking about the, so you've looked at the revised, what I guess I call the O-I&M plan now.
Yeah.
Yeah, which for the commission, instead of an O&M plan, the planning board looks for an I&M plan. So I decided we just call it one thing, an O-I-M plan. Please accept that.
What's
there
the
is
I for?
The inspection.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Operations, inspection, and management. The LED is inspection and management plan, which are basically the same things. No, we could definitely, we should up that. The reason we don't think that it just needs to be inspected and probably cleans rarely is because it is the roof water. It's coming from the infiltration system. It's not coming from any, for that particular pipe run, it's not coming from any pavement areas that are regularly sanded or anything like that.
Okay.
So, but I think if probably every 2 years, maybe, I guess that would be reasonable. I mean,
Yeah,
we certainly should re-inspect it every year, right?
Yeah, I think 5 years is a little bit too long.
Yeah.
At least from my experience with siphon pipes, sediment is like the worst issue
Yes.
that they have.
Yeah. I just don't, if we're having, we have sediment in that, in any inspection, then we have serious problems because.
Also true.
It means that the underground system has failed for some reason. And that means it needs to be fixed. But thank you for reviewing that, Melissa, and picking up on that. You can see some other items that we've added, the level spreader, and the like. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no more comments, we'll be continuing to January 6th. Our consultants hopefully will have ample opportunity over the holidays to be able to review all the data as other commission members.
Chairman, thank you for indulging us this evening.
Thank you very much. Yes. Melissa, do you need a form for me, or do we are okay with that? Do we need to?
We are good until January 7th, so I might ask you for one just for filing. You know, it's the literal day after our meeting, so I just need a little time.
Okay. All right. I can see that that's been figured out. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time this evening.
Okay, do I hear a motion to continue to January 6th, 2022?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor by roll call vote?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Fire?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Massamato?
Yes.
All right.
All right, thanks. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah,
You too.
everyone have a Merry Christmas too.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas, so we don't see you
Happy
before.
holidays.
Yeah. Enjoy.
Hopefully you guys are on the good list, not the naughty list.
Thank you. Same to you.
Never.
You can be a little naughty if you need to be.
All right. Moving on, we have request for administrative amendment, 192 Woodland Road, DEP number 290-1076, and stormwater management permit, addition of decks, plural.
Yeah, it's pretty lame in the grand scheme of things, but they just wanted to make sure before they started construction and a good timeline and sequence of events that the plan of record showed that they did want to put these two decks, or I guess one on each home.
Not two on one dwelling.
Yeah, no, 2 decks, 2 dwellings, 1 deck on each dwelling. So for reference, this line is I think the 100-foot riverfront. So it's going to be in the outer riparian. And I think this had like so many resource areas. So They are they're obviously outside of the 20-foot buffer zone and in the outer riverfront area as well.
Okay.
Hopefully that made sense, what just came out of my mouth.
So these are raised decks because it says stairs to grade.
Yep.
So it must be just 2 or 3 of those fancy things that Russ was telling us about earlier. I presume.
Yeah, either the techno posts or standard footings, I would assume.
Standard footings.
So just to clarify, Teco Post is a brand name and helical pile is the actual unit, like Kleenex and a tissue.
Helical piles of tissue.
Yeah. Helical piles of tissue.
Got it. Does anybody have any issues with this?
Do they actually specify helical piles, or how it is that it's being
I would
put
assume
in?
that these are going to be normal poured footings.
Like sonotubes?
Yeah, I would assume so.
We're even doing a lot of the precast Bigfoot type of sonotube footings now. So it's not even a pour on site item. Just excavate and set.
So it's already within the limit of work. They started demoing. They have not started construction yet. So they wanted to make sure that this updated plan was approved by the commission before they started.
How are they doing with you now, Melissa?
They're doing great. No, they are. They got their restoration planting plan in that was required. And I reminded them this is also a site that they have to submit the vernal pool certification by, I think, June. We gave them a year. So that gives them the time this March and spring to get that all together. So they signed their contractor affidavit. I have an updated O&M. I have the planting plan, all as well.
And I saw the demo was done, so they've been good with you that way. Everything's good on site?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve the administrative amendment?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor via roll call vote?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Geyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Osmano?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, next we have a request for certificate of compliance, Stonebrook Court, DEP number 290-1028.
We are still waiting on revised materials. I believe Joe met, is meeting Danny out there tomorrow, I believe, to talk about the invasives that are still prevalent. Maybe Joe, if you could do a quick overcap.
Actually, I met with Danny this morning.
Oh, this morning.
Yep. Reviewed the locations where I had pointed out in the review that there were some invasive vegetation. And as I noted in our review, there were no conditions in the order regarding invasive species management, but I had done a open space review on the site, and there was a condition in the planning board permit that any invasive vegetation within the landscaped area or the open space be managed and then approved by the Conservation Commission before issuing a certificate of compliance. So we did look over those areas along the edge of the limit of work and pointed out some areas of multiflora rose, oriental bittersweet primarily. And their intent, I believe, is to hand remove because no herbicide application is allowed under the order. Hand remove and cut and pull those plants out.
Is that the only thing that's out of compliance?
I think there was some 20-foot encroachments, or was there just open space encroachments?
There were some 20-foot encroachments, yes. Or limit of work, yeah. Let me check the wording on that exactly.
So I think in the meantime, we at least have asked them to update the as-built because some of those encroachments weren't captured, along with some other small items that came out of Fuss and O'Neill's review as well. So we'll be I think we'll have a better understanding of how much is entered once we get that updated as-built material.
They're beyond the approved limit of work. I'm not positive if they're within 20 feet or not. Oh, they would be, because the order of conditions said there was no work within the 20 foot. So those would be within 20 feet. Yeah.
So hopefully by January, we can better capture the amount and areas that have actually encroached.
Okay.
I think that's it for me. Joe, do you have anything else to add?
Just quickly on the encroachments, I think one of those was a split rail fence. The other one is a boulder retaining wall that's a couple feet beyond the limit of work. So that's a little more problematic. The other thing that I did mention with Danny at the site is there are some areas where there's buried remains of silt fence, erosion control silt fence that weren't properly removed. The extent of that is hard to tell. I found several locations where that was present. There may be more that's not as visible if you go poking around a little bit more and digging through the surface. Right now, it's tough to see with the light snow cover that we had this morning, but they were going to go around the limit of work and try and find all the remaining silt fence and remove that.
Okay.
I think that's about it.
All right, so this one we'll put on hold till our next hearing. And if the minutes could capture why we did not approve it, so it doesn't appear that we skipped over it. Okay, next up is request for certificate of compliance, 13 Foley Drive, DEP number 290-1073, pool and deck.
Yes, and I definitely made a typo. It is 1043, so that's my fault. I apologize. I did a quick inspection. This is something that me and Matt had looked at during, because they changed the location of the pool. They actually switched it farther away from the resource area and also added a deck. So the last time the commission looked at it, we technically already had an as-built, but now the site is fully stabilized. And it's my recommendation to give a full certificate of compliance with the ongoing conditions 46 through 49, which are just our standard ones.
Okay. Any questions from commission members? Nope. Okay, do I hear a motion to issue the COC for 13 Foley Drive?
Move.
Yeah, second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Dyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Asimovitto.
Yes. Okay, next, another request for certificate of compliance, 3 Overlook Drive, DEP number 290-680. It says invalid COC.
Yes, so this is a project, I believe it was addition that was never completed. So we are looking for an invalid certificate of compliance just to close out the project and get that recorded at the registry.
You said it was never completed. They never did the addition.
They never did anything. No shovel touched the ground.
Okay, and this is the easy one.
Mhm.
Do I hear a motion to issue the COC to close us out?
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor via roll call vote?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Guyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Osmanno.
Yes. Okay, we have another request for certificate of compliance, 9 Grove Street, DEP number 290-1032 for septic system.
Yeah, so I also did the final inspection for this one. The only thing that I did find is that there was a tree cut. This site backs up to basically a resource area that is the railroad tracks, if people are familiar with this area. So one of the trees that were definitely within the 20-foot was removed. So I reached out to the representative and they sent over pictures that in one of the recent storms, the tree had been completely uprooted. So it was a worthy reason to take the tree down. So my only recommendation is maybe voting to issue but not release until the wood chips and the rest of the stump has been removed, because they are kind of very close to the edge of the resource area, just by default.
They didn't try to pick the tree back up and stick it back in the ground?
It was standing kind of, but like the whole root mat was just completely up. So,
But was it mechanically uprooted?
it didn't look like it.
Might have been known to whack it with an excavator and knock it over.
There was nothing else there to suggest that it had. So I will take their word for it on this
That's
one.
speaking from experience, Russ?
Definitely.
You know, I might have taken down a tree or two with a machine.
Okay. All right, so your recommendation is to go ahead and issue it, but hold it until they have that cleaned up.
Yeah, it's mostly just the grindings, that are still kind of in a pile that are there.
Yeah, okay. All right, you're here, motion to issue the COC for 9 Grove Street.
So move.
A second?
I think Russ did second very quickly.
All in favor?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Dyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Osmanno.
Yes.
You all sound so enthused.
Oh, yeah.
Yay.
Of course we are.
84 Main Street, discussion and project changes updates. I assume there's nothing here for that?
There is nothing. I talked to Peter Bemis today, and he did a very apologetic that it completely slipped his mind. So I put it to him that it better be in by January for that amendment request.
Okay. Next, we have approval of annual report.
Yes, so I had that on the Dropbox. It's pretty similar to what years past have looked. The only additions that I did was that I got my CESP certification, and I did do a thank you to Jim Gorse, who recently moved out of town because he used to do a lot at Breakneck Hill between the Cow Fund and Stewardship Committee, and he used to mow the trails, etc. So I wanted to put that in there.
Has everybody had a chance to look at this?
I can pull it up too if anyone
I thought it
wants.
was lovely, Melissa. Very nice writing.
My copy and paste skills are wonderful.
Doesn't matter. Still good.
It's a great tool until you make a mistake.
Yeah. Although it is fun to cull through all the agendas and realize how much we actually really did do. So that's always a nice feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unless there are any changes, I just needed approval to submit this to the Board of Selectmen office.
So you're waiting for a roll call vote?
I'm waiting for a first and second.
So move.
I don't think any of us got it tonight. Okay. Watson.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Pete.
Yes.
Geyer.
Yes.
Gregory.
Yes.
Wittes.
Yes.
Osmanno.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. S&P bylaw regulation updates and discussion.
So we held off from the last meeting. So we still have the proposed amendments, I'll say, that I put together in November. And then I also uploaded to the Dropbox the kind of flow chart of what it would look like. So after kind of our last real discussion about this, I took a look at some of the surrounding towns and what their numbers would be and kind of what the commission was trying to get to. You know, I think there's an interest in having the two-part process, but there was a concern about the amount of work it would fall on me. So I put the flow chart together because as I kind of thought about it a little bit further, I think that there's definitely a way to streamline it and that it doesn't put excessive burden on the office and processing. So essentially, 75% of the time I find stormwater permits through the building permit submittal. You know, sometimes people don't realize. So that start will still be the same. The amount of work in reviewing those site plans will still be the same. It's just now the disturbance level of if they are within that 1/2 to 3/4 acres, you know, what the commission, I would assume, the best path forward would be create this kind of standard policy document that's kind of an addendum necessarily to, if you meet that lower threshold, you need to abide by these certain conditions. And sometimes they might not always be applicable, but most likely, or more commonly, it'll be implementing erosion controls and just having better sediment controls on site. So, you know, when we do get complaints that sites are washing out into the roadway, we would actually be able to have a little bit more enforcement action to have them sweep the road or put in a construction entrance or even put up even just simple erosion controls. So I think it does capture that smaller projects that we were hoping to capture, but not necessarily have full compliance with the bylaw, but have an ability to enforce the smaller projects that aren't typically in front of us. And then everything that is 3/4 acres and above would go through the full SMP application process like we do now. And thinking about it, I think if we have that defined document, you know, it really just goes through the building permit software, you know, so it's not necessarily any additional review or, you know, maybe one inspection if they do need erosion controls or, you know, if it is a more sloped site, but even not every site will necessarily require erosion controls based on what the project will be. So that's kind of what I was thinking and trying to get that middle ground. So I think we're looking for comments back from you guys on what your thoughts would be.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I haven't gone in the Dropbox and spent time reviewing that and thinking about it and analyzing it and that sort of thing. One of the things that I would want to maybe look at with respect to that is, you know, the work that was done by the library and the little triangle there between 85 and the side road that goes to the town hall. And, you know, they cut all the trees down, they stumped the whole thing, and they turned the library parking lot into a mud puddle. And, you know, that somehow circumvented stormwater. I mean, it was more than 50%. It was the entire thing. You know, and that was something that everybody could drive by, you know, constantly. So I don't know if you ever got any calls to the town hall about that, Melissa.
Yeah, you know, I talked to Carl about it. He brought it up too. So the majority of kind of why they needed to alter the area is for the road improvement project, first of all. So while the end result will be I think they're calling it a pocket park. It's mostly the road improvements, but it would also, even though it falls under an exemption, you know, it would still, to your point, allow us a little bit more enforcement action on those smaller projects that we wouldn't necessarily have now.
Yeah, because I mean, the amount of runoff and mud that ended up in the library parking lot was just, you know, ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, and the amount of oversight that we do in some other lots, and to see that happen there was, you know, we need to make sure that whatever our bylaw is covering can deal with something like that as well. That should just not be exempt.
Can I add something to that? I'm going to cement my reputation as a cynic here. Is the reason we issue permits for a reason, to make sure things are done correctly. And if everybody was good, we wouldn't have to issue permits. And it's mostly to make sure people stay in line. Plus, we also have we're also asking for a change in the rainfall numbers, which says that things are actually worse than we thought they were. So to come away from this by loosening up, this is where the cynic really comes in. Loosening up the standards in any way is going to make things better. I'm not really against what Melissa just went through. I mean, I'm okay with it, but I just would caution that we don't create more problems for ourselves. Enforcement issues. We wind up doing a lot of enforcement. I don't like doing enforcement. I don't think anybody else does, right?
Carl, sorry, just curious, what do you perceive as being more or less stringent?
Well, between the half acre, the 3/4 acre sites, right? That may not, people may not pay a lot of attention to that because they haven't gone through a permit process. They haven't gone through a process. It's just a piece of paper, right? This is where the cynic comes in. They're just not going to pay a lot of attention to that, right? And and I hate to see you going around, banging people over the head because they haven't done what we wanted them to do, right? I just don't want to be doing that, So it's a trade-off. Do we make people go jump through hoops, or do we have to do a lot of enforcement? It's tough.
Well, I mean, with everything like this, there's a line someplace.
Yeah.
Right. And it's where you decide to draw it. And I like to draw the line where it makes the most sense, me personally. That's kind of like the engineer in me, I guess.
Would it make sense for me to go through, maybe even for at least 10 years or so, the acreage of sites that have required a stormwater permit and then divide them into single families versus, a commercial or?
Yeah, that might be helpful, honestly. I hate to put you, a go fetch a rock kind of thing and, you come back with the wrong size constantly, but if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's a homework assignment that way, but that may be helpful, especially when we go to try to sell this.
Yeah. Because I think
thinking exactly the same thing, Mark, that someone's going to ask that question about, well, how would it have, changed what we've done in the past? So I think that would be a really great exercise.
Because ideally give a measurement of how we are making things easier on folks while still protecting against erosion and sedimentation control.
Okay, so what I will try and do is do total project site and total project disturbance, because I think what our goal was originally was to lessen the burden on the smaller lots and kind of equal it for the larger lots that had a little bit larger to work with that were clearly being the problem childs. And that's kind of where I came up with the 3/4 acres, but I think having that information would definitely solidify the threshold amounts.
I think that's a good idea, Melissa.
Okay.
And then speaking of, selling it, I don't recall if we ever sort of collectively decided we wanted to go this route, but we are going to seek to remove stormwater from the zoning code and have it be a standalone bylaw administered by conservation. Is that?
I actually just talked Karina, the town planner this morning, and trying to figure out how that would be possible. And she mentioned that in their one of their more recent site plan bylaw revisions, they simply just added, because their site plan is in the zoning code as well, that appeals just go to an appropriate court. And that was in, I think, 174-10G is that reference. So before it said any appeals go straight to the zoning board of appeals, but now it just states that it will go to any court that is relevant to what it is. And I can pull up what that language is, but that was accepted by the AG, and that might be an easy way to still have the bylaw where it is, but having a easier adjustment.
I understand that. That still leaves one problem that we ran into in the past with the previous building inspector, because it falls under the zoning code. He declared that he was the zoning enforcement officer, and somebody who was before us with a stormwater permit was told by the building with the stormwater permit was at the exact action that he took, but basically he said, "Don't worry about it. You don't need it," and we were cut right out of the loop. So I from my perspective, choice one is remove it entirely out of zoning code. I was thinking about it the other day, it'd sort of be like, if people could appeal ZBA decisions to the Conservation Commission, it simply doesn't really make a lot of sense. And then to have and then also the side effect that I was talking about just a moment ago, it would be like if somebody got a zoning decision from the building inspector that they didn't like, they could walk up the road to you, Melissa, and you could overrule it. Let's all of us stay in our own lanes and
Okay.
So, but the reason I bring this up is that I think it will take some selling on our behalf. Specifically, I think we're going to need to speak with the selectmen and explain our reasoning. And I think it's very solid reasoning, but that's a step we're going to have to take before we go to a town meeting.
So I seem to recall one reason why the appeal was going to the zoning board and not to a court was to save the applicant money, and standing up a legal team to go off into court and the delays it takes in court and all that sort of thing. That keeping it local to the zoning board would be more expedient. But I guess I don't remember why that had to become, part of the zoning code to begin with. The wetlands bylaw isn't. I'm not sure why the stormwater bylaw is.
Has a stormwater permit or a decision ever been appealed to the ZBA since the adoption of that bylaw?
That was going to be my next question.
I think that would be,
yes.
I think the answer is, oh, it has. Okay.
Yes. I can't remember who and why, but it was. And they didn't know what to do with it at all. And they came back to us and we ended up working it out between us and the applicant. Maybe it'll come to me. I can't remember the exact, property or place it was, but yeah, there was one that I remember.
Even just happening once is still a fairly powerful argument. And I think the other argument is that, all of our local bylaws, our wetlands bylaw and our planning bylaws, that's the route for appeal. It goes, it goes to the court of appropriate jurisdiction. That's
yeah, and if the zoning board turns down the appeal,
that's where it ends up anyway.
Well, then it goes to Superior Court. Yep. Not even a local land court. It goes all the way to Superior Court. So
yeah.
Anyways.
Again, we're so reasonable that there's only been one appeal ever, it sounds like.
There probably would have been a second one for Park Central if it didn't get waived.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, all right. So Melissa, you're gonna do a little homework there and we'll have this on the agenda. So let's see. We have a update on task 1 and 2 at Breakneck Hill.
There's nothing to update. I think there's Mark Purple is playing. Oh my gosh, has been playing phone tag with Mary Jude Pigsley, who's the regional director. So they wanted to. I'm not sure what the basis of the call is. I didn't get to know. Mark doesn't know either. But before they issue their comments on the solid waste assessment plan, they wanted to talk to.
What was that? Who's he trying to talk to?
Mark Purple. Oh, Mary Jude Pigsley. She's the regional director at Mass DP.
Oh, okay.
For Central Region.
My concern with this is, if we want to try to make the next town meeting, it's closing in fast, and we'll need a warrant article, so we'll have to do preparation because there's going to be some explanation required behind this. I mean, we pop up. I don't know how much the money's going to be, so that's why I've been quiet. I haven't said anything. See how much it's going to be.
I asked Taylor at TRC for a rough estimate, and he believed, and this isn't without any comments from DEP yet, so it could change, that the initial research and finding the NOI and doing the grubbing could do 15 to 20 grand. So not horrible. I hate to put it like that. But this first step could be done without necessarily a town meeting warrant, I believe, depending on what that final cost would be. But moving forward, definitely would need something.
Oh, okay. All right.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to submit a MVP action grant interest form as well. Those are due not until March, I think, or February. And to see if there's a way that we could possibly have part of this project funded through the MVP program. And I'm also looking at other grants to see if there's any other monies that might be available for this project.
Good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Any, conservation scientist or agent report?
I'm sure some of you realize there's some clearing being done on Sears Road, the corner of Sears and Main Street. That is Jim Benacasa. He bought the house, I think at 1 and 7 Sears Road, and he A&R'd the rest of the property to have 4 lots, one with the existing home that I believe is going to be remain, and then 3 new house lots. He did not grub the property. He just removed the trees, but he will be filing. We are attempting to get it in for the January meeting. The filing deadline is Monday, so we're trying to at least get it in the paper in time and get the rest of the documents in order for the January 6th meeting. So that was on tab.
So you said A&R lots?
These are A&R lots, yep.
4 of them?
Yes, one has the existing house on it.
All right, so that's going to trigger stormwater for the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah, so they're going to be filing a stormwater permit. And I did ask them to look at the adjacent properties and kind of along the property boundary, because and Ben mentioned as well that there looks like there's kind of some sort of intermittent stream. I know the front yard of the adjacent property always likes to flood when it rains. So I'm having them look at filings for both, but at least a stormwater permit for January.
There's absolutely an intermittent stream in there. Yep.
Melissa, did you visit the site in the last couple of days? Because as far as not grubbing the site, there are tree stumps that have been yanked out by excavator lined up against the stone wall on Sears Road. I mean, I drive past this about a half a dozen times a day.
Yeah.
A big part of it has been grubbed.
And what was interesting was yesterday around 5, their engineers sent an email stating that I was just out to the site a few minutes ago and took some pictures. I did not see one pulled stump. The various tree cutting machines on site have chewed up the grass and exposed topsoil in some areas, but there's no subsoil visible and no lower horizons of soil are visible. There's no earthwork or grading. And then he sent a couple pictures. But to me, I would agree, it looks like stumps. So I did kind of enforce that they do need to get their information and they need to stabilize ASAP, which I believe they're going to be doing the end of this week into next.
Okay.
Any others?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think like we discussed 192 demo, they're going to start foundation soon. I think they're doing another house lot. They just on Ayabella and Lorenzo Drive off North Vickery, they just put in for another building permit for number 2. And I'm just still waiting on various as-builts for other projects that are completed, like the ones on Middle, Breakneck. I think Kane's Crossing is almost there. And then hopefully we can get at least some of those in to see them before the hard winter comes so we can get those closed out.
Okay, and I think one last piece of business we have is the stormwater management permit for One Pine Hill.
Yes, thank you, because I would have forgotten. I did send out the draft to you guys earlier this afternoon. I can pull it up on the screen if you would like, but essentially it was the standard conditions since they did the stockpiling area locations and updated the stormwater calcs. So there wasn't anything too exciting in that.
Do we have any edits? No. Okay, then do I hear a motion to issue the permit as written?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Watson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Pete?
Yes.
Dyer?
Yes.
Gregory?
Yes.
Wittes?
Yes.
Passamato?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, with that, I think we're at the end of the agenda.
Just one quick thing, Mark.
Yeah, go ahead.
File this under, we don't forget. I went over to Breakneck Hill and I was driving back and I remember the woman who was going to build the stone wall with their piles of rocks along Breakneck Hill.
Alexis.
She had an exception because she was going to build a stone wall. Well, the piles are still there. I don't remember how long ago that was. We might want to check in with her and ask her how she's doing with her stone wall. Just so we don't, you shouldn't feed us a line, If you're really going to build a stone wall, you should build it. Right? Or does anybody disagree?
It was like the certificate of compliance we issued for a permit that they took out on a house addition that they never built.
Yeah, but we had an issue with the dumping of the stone. I mean, that was the issue, and it's not the fact that she was going to build a stone wall and she didn't. She dumped all that stone on there, and it's within 100 foot. It's kind of like a dumping issue, and then she came in and said, "Well, I'm going to build a stone wall with that, so that's allowed." So we said, "Okay."
I don't remember this at all.
I remember that. I do remember.
Also.
These the really fancy stones? There's like something really special about them? Or?
No, so it comes from the site across the street that the new houses were built on.
Yeah. I mean, there was no reason not to believe her at the time. I mean,
I think that's still our intent. It's just when it gets to it.
Yeah, I don't know if we want to. It's been
Okay. Time in the last year to do a stone wall. Nothing else to do.
One of the few things you can do without a mask.
Yeah, we just don't forget, you tell us stuff like that and, you should do it,
Yeah, the reason we didn't ask them to be moved or removed was because they're going to be used shortly in the construction of a stone wall.
Which was allowed, and Matt verified that. He said, yeah, that's an allowed thing. So we agreed. We said, okay, that's fine, as long as that's what you're gonna do.
It made sense because it was because people were coming onto a property from Breakneck. So it was kind of that barrier to protect our property.
Yeah. But I can see Russ chuckling over there.
He can't say anything because he lives across the street.
He doesn't want anything part of this.
No, as he shouldn't. I don't blame him.
Yeah, I do not recall any of this, so I must have been absent or something.
Yeah.
All right, I will
All
do
right, with
that.
that said,
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
we'll adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Watson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Pete,
Yes.
Geyer,
Yes.
Gregory,
Yes.
Wittes,
Yes.
Osamato.
Yes.
All right.
All right, so we'll see everybody next year. Enjoy the holidays.
Sounds good.